I think that it's very important that we have a framework for teaching. Teach people the basics, get people the basic information they need to understand stuff. Simple, direct. Here it is. Congress creates money every time it spends. Biden could get rid of student debt with a single pen stroke. Biden could reclassify marijuana with a pen stroke. On and on and on, whatever. We make demands. Here are the series of demands that we're making based on these things over here that we've taught you. Now we've got a series of demands. Those demands now meet with direct action. Those direct actions come with a combined force, but again, got to state it. I don't know why you got to state it, but you got to state it. It must be more like Occupy in the sense that it just kept going and going and going. The difference is instead of it just being sitting there, it's got to be a step-by-step thing. It's got to be projecting out. If you don't do this, next time we'll bring more. And you got to be willing to sacrifice. You've got to be willing to sacrifice. It is not going to happen. And it makes no sense to be bitching and moaning if you're not willing to make the sacrifice. And now, tell the truth, most people aren't willing to make the sacrifice. Heck, most people won't even show up to an organizing call. You could sit there and you could share it with them, and they won't come. They won't show up. But they'll be the first ones out there bitching about how it didn't go their way. But they won't show up. Or they'll find something more fun to do. Video games, sporting events, fucking dances, whatever, drinking, I don't know, whatever the fuck ever people do, as opposed to actually being activists. So this is why people need breaks. It can't be a constant grind. So the idea here is having people in rolling waves participate in these things so that it's not always on one person. I'm in an organization where the bulk of the work is left to a handful of people. Okay. And it's sad. It's depressing. I'm not going to lie. People don't think it's their responsibility to check in, show up, do whatever. It's gross. Okay. But there's a disease in this movement that makes people think that way. Think you should be grateful for this, but it's not for you. It's for the world. That's the thing. Stop thinking you're doing it for someone else and think about you're doing it for the world. You're doing it for your children, your grandchildren, your family, whatever. You know, if we don't start living our values by taking direct steps like this, instead of figuring out how we can make the next NFT or crypto purchase work out for us, you know those kind? Instead of doing that shit, we need to be looking at how we can work together. And that's the next steps. It's not sexy. It's not fun. I think it actually is fun, but it won't be fun because most people don't see the value. They can't see the immediate gratification, so they just don't do it. But, you know, I see it. You know what? Here's one thing you're saying, and I agree with this. I'm going to put this up here. People are tired, but just envision hypothetical tsunami coming, and you're tired. This is the kind of stuff we're up against. And it is fun and rewarding, Jonathan. But ultimately, people get bored. They won't stick around. They won't stick around. They just check out okay, moving on. I've got something else to do. See it happen all the fucking time. And then the worst part is we get butthurt when our favorite candidate like Nina Turner doesn't get elected because the establishment is so goddamn strong. They've got an entire group of people on blast that are ready to, at a moment's notice, go and do the whole 911 to save the establishment candidate. We can't even get people to line up for important things like student debt, climate change, or any of that. It's always tiny little pockets. I mean, you've seen these protests where there's 3 or 4 people on a corner raising a sign up. Why so disorganized? Why so little involvement? Why is that? Think about what I'm saying. You know, hell no, we won't go. And it's like, well, you're not going to block it. You're not doing anything. What are you doing? You got 3 people there. Would you think being an insular Green Party with 4 people showing up was somehow or another going to equate to a revolution? No, you got to get outside your bubble. You got to get outside your 4 values and your 12 whatevers, and you've got to mingle with the rest of society, and you've got to get them on board. You've got to talk to them in a language they appreciate, not the language you appreciate, but the language they appreciate. Meet them where they are. So you can get them, but the only way they're going to come is if they understand what's at stake. Think about how many people, I mean, most people slam the door in a Jehovah's Witness's face. Most people don't open the door up and say, come on in and have some coffee. But think about the amount of effort they put into getting people to read their Watchtower stuff. We don't put nearly that kind of energy into educating people about the environment, about healthcare, about, a Green New Deal. We don't talk to each other about what it takes to be an activist. And when we do, it's always in these little pockets. These little cliques get together, come up with a neat idea, and then they start excommunicating the people they don't like. See it all the time, folks, all the time. You can see it in all these 3-day panels, summits, and stuff like that, where certain groups are excommunicated and left out. They're not good enough, whatever. You can see it all the time.